Hi folks, Scott here, and this is the wrap for Tuesday, August 28th. So, interesting day today. Not as interesting as yesterday's unfilled down gap, but you can see on this 5-minute chart we had a little bit of a bounce back and then a little bit of pullback after that. So technically we ended up with a higher close today. There's a pretty feeble bounce overall. This move here from the close from 2 days ago down to yesterday was a little more than 1.5 percentage points in the S&P. And today's close being right here is less than 1/2 percentage point. So to keep sample sizes larger, I'm going to show you the results of fading gaps after a small higher close, less than 0.5% higher than its prior day, which is what we have today, that followed basically a simple trend day down definition of closing down by at least 1% and also being above the 200-day moving average. And there you go. Only happened about 35 times in the past 10 years. Maybe a slight bias. I mean, clearly there has been a slight bias. Don't know if that's real or not because the sample size is too small. But historically, there's been a slight bias towards gapping up on the subsequent day. Both have had comparable win rates. The trend days, the bigger moves have been to the downside using an end-of-day stop. Even if you get rid of this one monster loser, it still lost money on the other trades because the average winner only tends to be about 3 points. Average loser, though, has been over 12 points. So pretty significant. Where a gap up, about 4-point average win, pretty typical. And when I apply our MTG stop parameters, this number probably improves and this number probably gets worse. We'll see. But getting ahead of myself, I'll rerun this number for our members in the morning using MTG stop parameters, and as always defer to our gap guides and my worksheet before I make my final decision. But on the surface, be a little bit more careful on a gap down tomorrow because yesterday's big move down could be leading to another move down, and today was just a pause. That's really the big picture of what this shows here. All right. So had a good day, not a real busy day from a trading perspective. Let me show you the worksheet first. So this is the summation of our gap guides for the 8 individual indices, and you can see a gap up between the high and the close. It certainly wasn't a big gap today, but this was a possibility of gapping between the high and the close, or between the close and the low, or between below the low. All slightly profitable historically, all varying win rates, but nothing terrible, nothing great either. However, we had a big positive here. Fading gaps after an unfilled down gap is considered a big positive. And let's see. Per last night's wrap also showed another positive unfilled down gap that missed filling by at least 1/2 of the 5-day ATRs. That's a sizable unfilled gap that remained on the charts. Tends to greatly increase the chances for down gaps and even up gaps as well. So all of this led me to believe likely to have a consolidation day. I misspoke yesterday's video. I talked about a widespread 7-day. It was not technically because Toby Crable did not consider the overnight gap, so at least the way I've coded his formula did not do it. It only looked at intraday high and lows. So it was a big move, but that's why that didn't show up if you were worrying or wondering about that. Bottom line for me, neutral to slightly attractive gap guides, mostly positive data in terms of the other factors that we consider, and felt like we were poised for consolidation. Not felt like, I've just seen this many, many times. After a big move, market's likely poised for consolidation. So reasonable gap fade opportunity in either direction, my opinion. So I said if the ES gap down by at least a point or up by at least a point, and all the markets gap the same direction, that would fade the open with a half size position and like to hold some of the extended target area, especially if gapping down. Well, that's exactly what I did. I goofed up my time activated order, so I had to do this manually, but it gets tricky regardless because we were opening right at that key 1627 level, and you can see I was watching it, and sure enough, with 1 second to go, we traded at 1627. I hit the submit order. Always submit orders 1 second, whether it be manual or automated, and I actually got filled with no slippage, filled exactly 1627. First target, which was half my position, was 1628 and a quarter exactly. Got a point and a quarter on that half. I held the second half. I told folks when I said in my comments that we're going to extend target, but really felt like we're based upon being stretched to the downside, more likely to get range expansion inside of yesterday's candle than down below. So my initial target was 34. and I shared that with folks in our trading room. And then the 15-minute guides came out, which I'm not going to show you now for time's sake, but they slightly favored a high fade. So I decided to go ahead and take profits. It was a little beyond the extended target, which is knife. I locked in 4.5 points on the second half, and my trading plan does not allow me to do any other trades in the morning other than range trades, so I didn't have any range trades, 15-minute or first hour, that were really compelling. Left them alone. We did have confluence from our price guides up here in the 1639, 1640 area. Let me show you that very quickly. This is one of the probably least appreciated but but very valuable aspect of our site. These price ladders for each of our 8 markets. You see R1 was 39.50. And yeah, Jackson R1 and yesterday's open was at 38.2. So I thought we'd test this area. Thought we might test the area. So I set up a discretionary trade. I did not call this out. I noticed this in the morning after I left the room. I left the room around 11 o'clock, and we were continuing to push a little bit higher. Of course, hitting my original target. But I went ahead and set up a discretionary trade with a 4-point stop at 1639 and a 4-point target. And didn't take much heat, rolled over and got plus 4 points on it while I was out of the office, so during lunch. So that was a very nice trade, and the only other trade I did today. So we'll see what tomorrow brings us, but that was my day, and that is the wrap for Tuesday, August 28th. Have a good one.